I'm proud to be president of this organization. Peace Women Across the Globe is a follow-up organization of 1,000 women that we have nominated for the 2005 Nobel Peace Prize. These 1,000 peace women constitute the core of our growing worldwide network. It is now the 5th forum that Peace Women Across the Globe has co-organized with various national and international organizations in different regions of Egypt. This is remarkable, given the political situation in your country. The participants and organizers of these fora need courage to tackle the complex and probably also controversial topic of participation of women and the issue of women claiming their political, social, and civil rights at all levels. On behalf of Peace Women Across the Globe, I thank you very much for the opportunity to work with you and the steering committee. We feel enriched by the quality of our cooperation and the dialogue fora which we jointly implemented. We are also pleased that women from our global network can contribute their specific professional and personal experiences in these discussions. It is a principle of our network to invite experienced women from our network to exchange know-how and to learn each from other. The topic of the dialogue fora is women's rights. Women's rights which must finally be implemented and respected. But not only your country, but not only in your country the demand of women's often die away unheard. Throughout the world, women are frequently in the back of the societal queue and have to wait until they get their turn with their concerns. Sometimes it is hard not to lose courage and hope and to find the strength to use our disappointment as a motivation to take action. However, we must motivate ourselves to bring up our concerns again and again and again, as peacefully as possible, because violence is not our language. Women and the proper functioning of democracy are mutually dependent. Without women, there is no democracy. Without women, there is no democracy. Switzerland is sometimes called, I come from Switzerland. Switzerland is sometimes called the oldest democracy in the world. But we women had to wait until 1971, after years of political struggle, until we finally got the right to vote and to be elected. Switzerland, dear ladies and gentlemen, is definitively not the oldest democracy of the world. Women belong in the parliaments at all levels. We are half of the population, and it is a matter of justice that we get an equal share of participation, power and policy making. Power and participation means taking responsibilities for the good of society. It means taking responsibility for public finances, for example, responsibility for the quality of life, responsibility for education, food, home, housing, and so on. People in the decision-making positions, often they are men, don't like to share their power. I know that very well because I was a member of the Swiss Parliament for 12 years. I was elected on a women's list, which means I was on a candidates list of my party in which only women were represented. On a mixed list, the women would have been in the 10th or 15th position, with very few chances of being elected. Our plan worked out and I got elected. We were tired of having to stay outside of the parliament demonstrating for our rights. We belong in the parliament and we belong in the governments. There is no question about this. The equitable participation of women in parliaments and governments is important, but equally important is the involvement of civil society organizations and their notions of a functioning society. The Egyptian civil society has given us an example of its transformative power. In the years of our work in Egypt, we have seen what committed people can achieve. Every social change process is difficult. To have political rights and duties and to put them into reality also. You often have to start from scratch, consider, engage in dialogue, seek allies. And damage is quickly done by power struggle, political and religious extremism, and armed violence. I look forward to the two next days, to stimulating discussions and constructive cooperation. I know about your hard work for justice, and I have the greatest respect and admiration for your perseverance over and over again. Thank you very much.
You're doing for Egyptian women, وهي الحقيقة قالت إن أي تغيير بيكون صعب، يجب أن لا نستسلم، لأن بدون المرأة مفيش ديمقراطية. هنسمع دلوقتي من الأستاذة تانيا ميرابيل، وهي مديرة المشروعات بمؤسسة نساء من أجل السلام عبر العالم. Miss Tanya Mirabel, Projects Manager, Women Across the Globe, please.
So, dear ladies and gentlemen, dear participants and dear guests, I wish you also from my side and on behalf of Peace Women across the globe a warm welcome. It's a great honor to me staying with you these 2 days of dialogue and discussing with you the topic of women's empowerment in Egypt, from recommendation to strategic implementation. Since 4 years, we are facilitating and working on the dialogue process together with the National Council for Women, the Center for Democracy and Social Peace Studies from the Library Alexandrina, UN Women and other stakeholders. During this time, we collected a lot of recommendations from different regions in Egypt, and we discussed how to forward women's rights in their participation on all decision-making levels. So I saw in the past years how hard Egyptian women are working to get their rights. Now it is time to discuss the strategic implementation of these recommendations. You as participants of this dialogue forum are very important in this process. Your presence during the following 2 days shows your interest in the topic and your willingness to really work deeply on the implementation of women's rights and to contribute to a change in this field. I am overwhelmed about your presence and I am looking forward to these 2 intensive working days with you. The aim of the dialogue forum is to develop a framework for a comprehensive and transformative action plan and future national strategy on Egyptian women and their participation in the public sphere. So this event is perhaps a little bit different than other conferences you participated. It's not a conference as usual. It's a dialogue forum where you as participants are the most important actors because of your experiences and your knowledge. And we are asking you to work together and not only to listen to speeches. Coming from different levels of institution and society, you were asked to design the necessary tools and take the required measures in order to close the gap between women's empowerment policies and their implementation, and also to ensure the makeability of the action plan on all societal levels. So you are the ones who will draft the national strategy for women's empowerment. Therefore, the quality of the dialogue forum and its outcome is depending on you and your commitment. To achieve these goals, we are working after the introduction speeches in different dialogue tables. And you were supported by a moderator on each dialogue table. With dialogue, you will gain a deeper mutual understanding and insights on topic and showing to each other the different perspectives that exist on it. This platform should enable you to talk with each other in a way that would otherwise not be possible. Our vision is a constructive dialogue. That means respectful listening and respect, rather than arguments and debates, and understand one another across profound differences. Through dialogue, you can clarify feelings, concerns, and views, and find effective ways to respond to critically important problems. With the dialogue forum, we want to foster key entry points for joint actions that are implemented. We want to create a supportive environment in which you as participant can elaborate important topics that lead to a clear national strategy and an action plan on women's empowerment. Herewith, I am closing with the words of Margaret Mead, one of the first well-known and important women anthropologists. She said, "Never doubt that a group of thoughtful, committed citizens can change the world. Indeed, it's the only thing that ever has." So I'm looking forward to a fruitful and interesting dialogue forum with deep discussions. Thank you.
بكين ومنهاج عمله واللي كان لمصر دور كبير فيه، بنرجع نسأل السؤال: طيب فين المرأة المصرية دلوقتي؟ ايه التحديات اللي هي بتواجهها؟ وايه الانجازات اللي احنا عملناها سويا واللي هي عملتها؟ الانجازات في الحقيقة كتيرة عملتها الحكومة وعملتها المجتمع المدني مع بعض، ومن ضمنها، دي مش كلها، كان في تأسيس وإنشاء المجلس القومي للمرأة كآلية وطنية، وده بيعد تعبير عن الإرادة السياسية لدعم النهوض بوضع المرأة المصرية. كان في نفس الوقت إقرار عدد من التشريعات والقوانين، منها حماية قانون الخلع بتاع سنة 2001، قانون الجنسية لأبناء الأم المصرية في سنة 2004، قانون الطفل اللي جرم ختان الإناث لعام 2008، وقانون الإتجار بالبشر لعام 2009. وتم أيضاً إنشاء وحدات تكافؤ للفرص في الوزارات المختلفة، وإنجازات عديدة في مجالات التعليم والصحة. وأخيراً وليس آخراً، كما تفضلت السفيرة التلاوي، فدستور 2014 للمرأة المصرية وفر لها حاجات كتير، منها أول دستور بيقول المساواة بالرجل في 5 مجالات، وضمان التمثيل المناسب في البرلمان، وتخصيص 25% من المقاعد في المحليات، وإلزام الدولة بمنع العنف ضد المرأة والفتاة. بالرغم من المكاسب، وطبعا وهشدد تاني على اللي قالته السفيرة التلاوي، لا زال هناك الكثير اللي احنا مفروض نعمله. لا زال هناك تحديات بتواجه حرية المرأة والمجتمع كله وحرية الإنسان وتقدمه. تمكين المرأة هو تمكين الإنسانية، وهو ده الشعار اللي بنسعى كلنا لترسيخه وللتأكيد على أن تقدم المرأة هو تقدم المجتمع والإنسانية جمعاء. على صعيد التمكين السياسي، لا زال تمثيل المرأة المصرية في مواقع صنع القرار واتخاذ القرار ضعيف بالرغم من الحقوق اللي نص عليها الدستور. لا زالت المرأة المصرية بتواجه تحديات كبيرة من حيث إيجاد الموارد الكافية لخوض الحملات الانتخابية وضمان مقاعد في البرلمان. كمان كما قالت السفيرة التلاوي، لا زالت الأحزاب السياسية لا تخصص الموارد الكافية لدعم المرأة وإشراكها في صنع القرار الحزبي والترشح على قوائمه. ولا زال البعض لا يدعم المرأة لمجرد إنها امرأة. فحان الوقت لترسيخ وتضافر جهود كل الشركاء المعنيين لدعم وضمان مشاركة المرأة في جميع المجالات الحياتية والمجال السياسي بالأخص. يجب ألا تدع المرأة فقط لصناديق الاقتراع، ولكن أيضا لمائدة المفاوضات السياسية وصنع واتخاذ القرار وجميع المنابر السياسية. فلا يعقل أن يغفل صوت ودور المرأة اللي هي نص المجتمع ويمكن أكتر، وإحنا في القرن 21. أخيرا وليس آخرا، هيئة الأمم المتحدة للمرأة والمساواة بين الجنسين UN Women بتؤمن بقيم المساواة وتكافؤ الفرص بين أفراد المجتمع. وانطلاقا من هذه القيم، فإحنا بنأكد على دعم كافة جهود مصر لرفع مستوى مشاركة وتمثيل المرأة في جميع المجالات وفي المجال السياسي على الأخص. شكرا على حسن استماعكم. أتمنى أني ما كنتش أطلت عليكم. شكرا.
On the mission that brought me here, I really would like to congratulate the organizers and the women leaders of this country for bringing us together this morning, and to wish you well as you put the plan together and make sure that it is implemented. You cannot come to Egypt and not be awed by the beauty and history of this country. Our president, Nelson Mandela, once said of our democracy, "The sun shall never set on so great or on so glorious a human achievement." I really think that the sun shall never set on so glorious the spectacular achievements of this country in history and its current beauty. Those historical achievements, by the way, take us to the issue we are discussing today, which is women's empowerment. And particularly, I am to talk about bridging the gap between policy and implementation. I feel as if I'm preaching to the choir, or we would say preaching to the converted, if you are going to talk to Egyptian women about women empowerment. After all, we are here in this city of Alexandria, where one of the most famous women leaders in history had her headquarters, that is Cleopatra. We are in this library where the first woman scientist and astronomer worked. That is Hypatia. I hope I am pronouncing it properly. It is therefore not a novelty to be talking about women being empowered to participate in all fields of life in the African continent, because women have participated in all fields of life in the African continent. But over the years, in our wisdom as societies, we started thinking that women needed to be confined to certain parts of society and not be allowed in other areas of life. I want to say that keeping women confined to some areas of our society and excluding them from others was not only to the detriment of women, it was to the detriment of our societies. My children love movies, and one of the movies that they love is a cartoon called Mulan. Mulan is a cartoon based in China. And in this cartoon, there's a little girl, Mulan, who's not allowed to go to war because her father has to go to war. But purely out of compassion for her father, and purely out of her feeling that she's clumsy and not achieving in the areas where she's supposed to bloom as a woman, as a flower, she then decides to steal her father's war garments and go to war on behalf of her father, because her father has become disabled. The theory in society is that it's men that should go to war, but the father is old and limping. And Mulan goes to war. And she hides and pretends to be a man. I'll cut the long story short though. Whilst pretending to be a man at some stage, when she starts, she has to learn to perform as well as her colleagues. And she pushes herself hard. Eventually she performs, and she's very helpful, and she helps them. Initially, she solves a problem that the Army General had given them as an assignment, and the others could not solve. But unfortunately, before they actually go to war, she's discovered that she's a woman. And then she's chased away. But later, when the actual war takes place, she realizes that our people are going to die, and she steps in, she plays her part, and her colleagues work with her. They win the war because of her. And then eventually, she gets the emperor's reward for having helped them to win the war. And eventually, her father, who was very angry that she went to war, but didn't expose her, because had she done so, he was worried that she would have been killed. He's now happy that she has done that. But what is the lesson you learn from Mulan? Is that empowerment of people, women or men, is really about allowing all humans in every community to bloom to their full potential so that they can serve their communities. Now, when you constrain the development of any member of the community, you are reducing the number of team members that that community can have at its disposal for their own advancement. And in so doing, you are depriving not only the person the opportunity to develop to their full human potential, but you are also denying the community the ability to develop fully to its potential. And as you can see in the Mulan example, when she participated together with her male colleagues, she was able to liberate China. As I said, now coming back to Africa and coming back to Egypt, here we have a country where there is no doubt that women can perform in different parts of society. The two women I've given examples of, the one performed in science and astronomy, even defying what was regarded as common sense then and moving beyond what was accepted as truth then, because science is a growing field. Every day you have to challenge what we think we know. The one led in times of difficulty. These are not the only women this continent has produced who have excelled in various parts of society. But one lesson I can tell you, ladies and gentlemen, is that women are always leading, whether confined or not. And they mostly lead in our families. They lead as mothers, they lead as parents, they lead as wives. But above all,